Hi, I'm Alex Kidman from Fat Duck Tech, taking the second day of my week-long experiment with the Surface Pro 3. For those of you just joining us, I've swapped out a Macbook Air, the 2011 model, for the Surface Pro 3 on Microsoft's contention that the Surface Pro 3 is intended to be a replacement more for laptops like the Macbook Air than it is per se for tablets. I'm not 100% convinced that I agree with that assessment, but I'm giving it a shot in any case. Now, today was an interesting day because I was actually out of office for a reasonable length of time, which meant that I was using the Surface a lot more. I'd be at a desktop with a tethered power supply most of the time within my office. The Surface Pro 3 generally held up quite well. The battery life, I haven't done a full extensive exhaustive battery test just yet, but I would estimate that I should be able to get about 5 to 6 working hours based off what I've done today. A few observations and notes, and this is not so much directly a MacBook Air versus Surface Pro thing, this is actually just almost any laptop versus the Surface Pro 3. Whilst, as I said yesterday, I do rather like the nifty stand and its ability to stand at multiple angles, there are some issues with using it on your lap in the same way that you would use a laptop. With most laptops, and I'll, for example, pull up the MacBook Air that I would otherwise be using, when you open them up, what you end up with is a solid angle on both sides. So this stands solid, that stands solid. With the Pro, and this was a problem with previous models as well, it's not quite the same thing. The back hinge, once it's supported, is fine. This can still move quite a bit. It's not impossible to work, it's a little bit trickier. I do quite like the keyboard. I'm getting on fairly well with it. It took me a little bit of time to work out a few small quirks around things like screen captures, because the keyboard that Microsoft makes for the Surface Pro doesn't have a print screen key, for example. But that stuff, that's just research. I should also point out, because it's kind of inevitable that this kind of argument ensues, this isn't intended to be yet another boring kind of Mac OS versus Windows 8 thing. That's not really what I'm looking at. That's not really what I'm interested in. For the record, I think you can be productive with whichever operating system you choose to use. Anyone who comes at me with oh, but this is more intuitive, this is easier to use, no, rubbish. You've learned how to use it. You're comfortable with it, and I'm cool with that. I'm good with that. Whatever you like. That's not really what I'm looking at, and what I'm looking at is the hardware. Two final hardware observations. One, compared to grabbing a MacBook Air, which is kind of nice and slender, and admittedly a little bit larger, because this is the larger model of the Air, the Surface Pro 3 is a bit of a chunky little beast. I mean, it's smaller, but it is a little bit fatter at the sides, and you do kind of feel that when you're holding it. For some people, that may be an issue where you think, well, this is nice and solid and robust. For others, they might just think that it's a little bit on the plump side. Finally, having praised the stand yesterday for its flexibility and multiple usage angles, I did come a bit of a cropper today. All I'll say is be very, very careful when you're closing it not to have any part of your finger trapped in it, because it really hurts.